This week's Astrology of the Week episode is a full blown emotional detox. Expect a mix of breakthroughs, even mixed signals, some tough love, and a surprise window of freedom tucked inside of it all. You're being asked this week to act bravely, to speak carefully, to rest intentionally, and release what's been quietly weighing you down. And if manifesting the things and situations that you want and need has not been exactly a smooth journey, there is a clear reason why, and it's to do with recovery. And that is discussed further in this episode. From emotional fog to bold confidence. This week is anything but a straight line, but it does build momentum. Welcome to the Horoscope Vault, a podcast that explores the world through the lens of astrology with a view to supporting you through the ups and downs of life, helping you in those times of change and growth, especially here to support you in making more confident decisions. I'm Charlie, an associate member of the American Federation of Astrologers and astrology reader for radio's The Bob and Sherry Show. This episode is breaking down the astrology of the week because it's almost like every day, every single day, carries a different key to clarity. So, this week's astrology is a roller coaster. It really is a little bit of every possible aspect. There's a pressure filled square forcing a decision early on. There's an abundant and prosperous conjunction, although the abundance may not be that obvious. There's a Cancer, new moon, fresh start. There's a couple of sextiles that offer an olive branch. There is a trine, which is the remedy or the answer that's hidden in plain sight. And it's the kind of answer where it's so easy you haven't or wouldn't have yet considered it up front. It's definitely a week for you to metabolize all kinds of feelings instead of living with this kind of emotional indigestion. So Monday's Sun in Cancer, it's officially summer thanks to this seasonal shift. And fun fact, it's not just astrological logic that says Cancer season equals summer. It's an astronomical reality. The Sun enters Cancer at the June solstice, which marks the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And that is a NASA level seasonal milestone. It's not just a zodiac or woo woo based observation. So, this summer sun in the sign of Cancer, with its emphasis on home, healing, nourishment, and care, it makes a square to Neptune, which is in the bold, firecracking sign of Aries. With this aspect on Monday, it could feel like temporary uncertainty about your personal direction, about your emotional needs. You may feel torn between needing comfort and craving some kind of escape. This is a time where energy and motivation can dip, and then escapist tendencies begin to rise. You may find yourself tuning out emotionally or fantasizing about bold changes, even reaching for things to try and numb an experience. And it's definitely not the time to just go ahead and assume that other people feel the same way that you do about things, personal things, and big, wide, worldly things. So be cautious. Neptune's influence can blur all kinds of emotional boundaries, and it can make it difficult to see others' true intentions. Monday really isn't a good day for big choices. Choices are better left for later this week. Clarity will come, but it's not right now. It's not out of the gate as the week begins. And the struggle part of that is you are likely on the precipice or right at the point of needing to make a decision. So, when presented with a choice, the key is not to rush. The Sun in Cancer is highlighting emotional sensitivity. It's about how you grow through the highs and the lows of life. And then Neptune in Aries speaks to healing. It speaks to pulling back in order to understand pain and therefore restore your strength. And with these two planets and their two meanings in a square, it feels like you're being pushed to choose whether to act on your feelings. You know, when you feel the pressure to move forward, even if you feel exposed or uncertain, that feeling that you just need to keep on going. Or the other end of this decision is, do you step back? Do you let go of control? Do you stop pushing and just allow the deeper meaning to emerge itself? The sun is saying, express, affirm, engage with life. And then Neptune is saying, release and soften and listen to the silence. So if you feel like you've been losing your sense of self in the noise, it may be time to retreat. If you feel like you're disappearing into avoidance, then it may be time to rise, even if you feel vulnerable, even if your voice shakes. And instead of deciding between the sun's action of pushing forward and Neptune's action of waiting, this square might just present a question for you, asking, where is action draining you? And or where is stillness costing you your clarity? And a little bit of a clue here to see which side of this square you might be leaning more towards. You choose the sun in Cancer path if you find that you've been hiding or you've been playing small in order to avoid discomfort. But you know that deep down you need to show up for something that matters to you. This might be in terms of telling someone how you really feel or standing up for your emotional needs. It's right for you to choose the sun in Cancer push forward path if you feel emotional but still clear. If you feel scared, even if you feel some kind of emotional energy bubbling up, there's just this quiet knowing that taking action from the heart is how you're meant to grow right now. The emotions come and go, but if the clarity is there, then you know that action is next. You can choose the sun in Cancer path if you've been overly passive, if you've been floating. And then you know that now is really the time to root into something personal, and it's you saying, this is who I am, and this is what I care about. So the sun in Cancer side of this Sun-Neptune square is active participation in your own becoming, even if it's emotional, even if it's tender. And this might come under the umbrella of having been avoiding a conversation. So you maybe have avoided a family conversation because it might stir up some conflict, but deep down, you know that staying silent is just part of keeping you small. And now it's time to calmly name what you need at home, even if your voice shakes while doing so. Or maybe you've been pretending that something doesn't bother you in a relationship, but the truth is you are hurt by this. Instead of withdrawing, you can choose to gently speak from the heart and explain how and why this thing matters to you. Maybe it's that you've been deferring your dreams, not applying for something, not sharing, not launching the product or the project. And it could be because you're too scared. And that could be because you're scared of being too sensitive or too vulnerable. But something inside you is still saying, if I don't honor this now, then I lose a part of myself. If you've been busy keeping on caretaking for everyone else, but you feel personally, emotionally neglected, then the sun in Cancer says, step into your own center. Express what nourishes you. Make your needs known. Not to demand, but just to be seen. And lastly, if you've been avoiding visibility because it feels too exposing, then Monday might bring this feeling from inside that says it's time for you to be seen, just as you are, and not as you think you should be seen. While this Cancer Sun path is full of energy, it's not loud, it's just brave in a soft way. But over on the other side of the square, you would choose the Neptune in Aries path if you've been obsessing over a decision, like a decision whether to move, whether to break up, to quit something, to launch something, but every time you try and figure it out, it's your mind that begins to spiral. And it's like the more you push, the foggier it gets. And the answer isn't in more effort, it's in quieting the noise and letting clarity show itself. The Neptune in Aries path is for you if you've been forcing productivity, powering through tasks even though your body is exhausted and your spirit feels disconnected, and you're realizing that rest isn't actually weakness, it's a kind of wisdom. The Neptune in Aries path of holding back, in comparison to the Sun in Cancer of pushing forward, you would go the Neptune in Aries way if you're ready to confront someone in a bold way. But actually, deep down, that confrontation is not coming from a grounded truth. It's coming from a point of reactivity or insecurity or a need to feel in control. And so instead of acting impulsively, take a breath, step back, and wait for the emotions to settle. This is part of a healing process, emotionally, physically, spiritually, but maybe you keep trying to skip ahead to the breakthrough part. And it's this Neptune path that invites you to trust that deeper healing doesn't happen on demand. It pretty much just unfolds in its own time. So you might feel the urge to start something fast. You might feel pressure to sign up for a program, to leap into a new path just so that you don't feel behind. But if you're honest with yourself and you know that you feel unclear about your why, then this Neptune in Aries side of the square says to you, pause. Just pause and let the vision come into focus first. So the two sides of this: on one side, you take action if you are sure of the thing that is causing emotional discomfort. And if you're not sure, then don't take action. Go inwards into self-care and just let it reveal itself. And this does seem like quite a big and heavy opening for the week. And I don't doubt for a second that there is at least one big or heavy thing going on for you, whether you're starting something anew or whether you're trying to mend something that's a little bit broken. And this week is supportive because after all of that big heaviness, on Tuesday, the Sun conjuncts Jupiter in Cancer. And this happens in the degree theme of self-defense. So everyone's probably talking about this conjunction. The Sun is considered one of the main planets to follow in astrology, and then Jupiter is expansive, very commonly associated with luck and abundance and blessing. So while Jupiter expands and the Sun represents the self, this conjunction can bring a surge of optimism. It can bring confidence. Your sense of self feels bigger, more powerful, just ready to take on a new challenge. Jupiter amplifies the Sun's natural drive for growth, for recognition, and it encourages you to boldly pursue opportunities for advancement and success and greater meaning. But one thing that this aspect is not good for is reckless expansion. This degree theme that the two planets meet in, 3-something degrees of Cancer, 3 degrees and 21 minutes, the theme of self-defense and constant re-examination adds a deeper layer to this. This is not about growing blindly. It's about actively testing your limits and pushing yourself to identify weak spots in your character, weak spots in your skills, weak spots in the plans that you've made. This is about strengthening your foundation by confronting vulnerabilities so that your growth is sustainable and resilient. So this usually intentionally fortunate conjunction encourages you to maintain self-awareness and discipline by critically evaluating where you feel and think that you are the weakest. This is about using challenges and extremes as opportunities to grow stronger and be cautious to avoid overreach by carefully managing your limits, even as you aim as high as you want to aim. So some examples of this might be at work, where you get an opportunity, maybe a promotion, a new responsibility, but you pause to honestly ask yourself if you're ready for this. Think of where you might struggle as you take on the challenge confidently. And this can be a very great thing for you to lean into, but it is a note to be very clear about boundaries in order to avoid burnout. Or maybe this very fortunate conjunction is hitting you in your area of relationships with an urge to open up emotionally, to deepen commitments, but maybe you notice some old wounds or old insecurities creeping in. So, self defense here would be kind of, instead of rushing forward blindly, carefully setting limits or taking time to heal in order to protect your emotional well being. Or if this conjunction is happening within your personal goals, where you're maybe excited to launch a new project or a hobby, and you just keep checking in with yourself and you're asking if you're stretching yourself too thin, then this is about being real, about the parts of you that need rest in order to support you in going bigger. It's a bit of a different perspective sometimes to apply self defense as part of prioritizing growth. The age old cliche of work until it's done has been what generations and generations have suggested as the best method or format to success. But this conjunction in Cancer reminds you that self care is the foundation necessary to become the CEO, to become the boss, the entrepreneurial success that you know you can be. And last but definitely by no means least, if this is happening in any realm or region to do with your health and boundaries, this might be increased health issues or symptoms showing up. It might just be happening to motivate you to improve your health or your lifestyle, to learn to recognize your body's signals. So, if you've been avoiding the facts and basics of necessary self care, and I am talking basic here, if you've been eating poorly and sleeping terribly and not really working to minimize stress, like the effects of a poor diet, bad sleep, and letting your emotional experiences hurt you may become very loud because your body is asking to be treated right. And this is not self care happening instead of showing up for life. This is about self care happening as well as. So it's a push to treat your body right as well as showing up for life, and then finding that you'll confidently move through any health anxiety or worry. The key is in avoiding extremes, so don't go hours and hours without food. Be careful of sleepless nights and just pushing through, and find a gentle momentum that helps you build resilience step by step. And it's really Jupiter's movement through any sign for the year-ish period that happens for that is a finger pointing at where growth, opportunity, and expansion are meant to happen in your life. Jupiter in any sign highlights the areas where you're invited to take risks, broaden your horizons, deepen your understanding. It's like saying that when you focus your energy there, where Jupiter is, then luck often follows naturally, sometimes even opening doors that you didn't expect. And if you have not been feeling lucky, it might be because you haven't yet put in the focused effort. Maybe you haven't aligned with the deeper knowledge that Jupiter calls for right now. And Jupiter is associated with luck, but luck is not random. It rewards you when you put in effort, when you labor wisely, and you make informed choices. It's the Jupiter cycles that are the most helpful to follow when it comes to growth, abundance, opportunity, and timing. And I think that that's one of the coolest things about astrological aspects and monitoring these cycles. It's seeing patterns in the timing that you can utilize for your benefit. In my recent Jupiter in Cancer episode, I mentioned how the current real estate cycle mirrors 2013. And then I noticed a couple of days ago now Yahoo Finance is echoing that. It's calling it a buyer's market that we haven't seen since 2013. Their report literally says, word for word, at no other point in records dating back to 2013 have sellers outnumbered buyers this much. So imagine being in the real estate market or just ready for real estate moves and changes and knowing about this cycle in advance. How much could that support your property-based decisions? And the same is true regarding everything else Jupiter in Cancer wise, which is tending to home and family right now. And if you missed that Jupiter in Cancer episode and you want to reflect a little bit more on its relevance, what else it has to offer in terms of how the next year looks, then I've linked that episode below in the show notes. And so, in the name of continuing to track patterns, the last Sun Jupiter conjunction in Cancer, the very alignment that you're set to experience on Tuesday, happened on July 20th, 2002, which makes this cycle especially rare and worth paying close attention to. If you are navigating big decisions around home, family, or security, then this is a powerful time to look back to your experience of comfort, security, growth, abundance, home, and family back in the year of 2002. And if you feel called to, then please go ahead, drop a comment on this episode and share any interesting correlations in your life between back at that time and this current experience now. I would absolutely love to hear and read about how these cycles and patterns are showing up for you. A couple more big points this week. Wednesday's new moon in Cancer is followed by Mercury moving into Leo on Thursday. This is very, very ballsy kind of energy. It's a funny little quip of the universe that these two things happen in succession, because it's like one is a warning or precursor for the other. The new moon in Cancer at 4 degrees has the degree theme of think before you speak. Incredibly relevant advice for moving into territory where Mercury in Leo is all about bold declarations and attention grabbing ideas and speaking from the heart, which sometimes happens without a filter. And that sometimes is also very necessary. This new moon is to set the stage for more expressive, dramatic communication, but it reminds you that not everything heartfelt is actually helpful, and that not every truth you share will be received. So it's a call to lead with emotional intelligence before you express something, especially because ego and passion might begin to drive the conversation. So Wednesday, Thursday may come with a tough moment. Maybe you become triggered by someone else's words. Maybe there's a passive aggressive jab, an accusation, a misunderstanding, and your instinct is to defend, maybe even to retaliate. But instead, let something deeper override that impulse. Stop, inhale, hold, exhale, and say nothing. Not because you're avoiding, but because you realize nothing needs to be said. Your silence alone diffuses the tension. And so this is a chance to break a cycle. And right before Mercury moves into Leo, in the final degrees of Cancer, Mercury makes a sextile to Uranus in Taurus. And it's like this feeling of being free because of getting something off your chest. And the pause is the benefit of thinking how to say something, because you might just want to go ahead and say something one way. Just deliver it with a punch and say the sentiment unpolished, just get your message across. But if it's delivered more effectively and with sensitivity, then there is freedom that comes after. So this energy midweek is especially potent for family conversations or personal disclosures that require tact and privacy. It's great for creative pitches, launches, confident self-promotion. And midweek, you might want to remind yourself that things are possibly going to be full of spark and energy. So go ahead and write a reminder to yourself in your phone calendar. Pick Wednesday or Thursday, set a notification to go off right before you start your day, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., and have that note or notification to say, do not react to tension. This is a little note to self that says you don't have to prove yourself today. And having this awareness, having this note or reminder pop up in your phone can prepare you for something that may crop up later. I love using this phone notification method, as do many of the people I work with using astrology. And it's kind of nice to have that info just ping up without having to stop and focus and source a perspective or a horoscope for the day ahead. It's just a notification that says, hey, by the way, someone may get a little bit extra with something they say today, and you don't need to react. And then later on, when it happens, you find that you catch yourself before overreacting or just reacting to criticism or whatever words somebody else directs your way. And it's been this format of notifications that's led me to create the monthly calendar horoscopes, digital, easy to sync to your phone, and designed to quietly support your day. This is your horoscope showing up in your phone calendar app. It's a lot more functional and efficient than trying to listen to a full episode each morning before you start your day. The calendar horoscope is full of gentle reminders of the potentials and the challenges ahead, right in your hand, without needing to search or scroll, without needing to set aside time to digest information. And the link to access your July 2025 digital calendar to sync to your phone is below. So, midweek is really supposed to be for uplifting words, but some of those words to you or from you might be strongly delivered. So, while it may feel right to say it like you mean it, it's most important to say something wisely. Then the Sun in Cancer sextiles Mars in Virgo, also on Thursday, with the Sun degree about how accessible you are to others, and then the Mars degree all about penetrability. It's the inner maturity and the self restraint of the Cancer Sun that helps you recognize when action, which is Mars, would be beneficial, and also when to enter into temporary or even unconventional alliances that serve a broader mission. So basically, think along the lines of some kind of temporary alliance that serves a personal need for you, or it supports an emotional goal, and maybe some kind of change in that relationship that is needed without guilt, without manipulation, without exploitation. So if you have recently, previously, or you are about to be in the position of asking others for support or help, the best format was and is to approach this with a temporary frame of mind. This is kind of about leaning on others in a way that doesn't leave you feeling bad for doing so. And one example that comes straight to mind is it's like taking a short term job that you don't like, but you're doing it just to boost or save extra money. Or another example is staying in a difficult living situation, knowing that it's temporary until the correct time to move to a more fitting place shows up. Maybe you've been working with people that you clash with, and this is just to get the job done in a universally successful way. It's kind of like having done something or doing something despite being uncomfortable with it. It served a purpose somehow. And then Thursday is a little bit of breaking free from that. Thursday is a signal of change, and the signal is some more freedom. And then we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because this week really is full of aspects every single day, and the weekend is not exempt from that. On Friday, it's Mercury in Leo trine Saturn in Aries, which says that your words and your ideas are so very rooted in strong principles that they will survive even despite harsh or challenging environments. So stand firm on your promises even when it's difficult or when others doubt you. communicate your truth clearly, courageously in situations that test your integrity or just situations where honesty feels risky. This is about strategically planning and thinking ahead whilst bravely facing challenges. This trine blends confident self expression with disciplined resilience, allowing you to uphold a new commitment firmly, even if it sometimes feels difficult. And then Saturday offers Mercury in Leo trine Neptune in Aries, very similar. This actually has to be my favorite aspect of the week, with Mercury hovering in the strongest manifestation degree on the astrology wheel. Mercury in Leo in the early degrees is in the manifesting degree. It's about feeling open and able to share without holding back. And then Neptune's degree is about recuperation. So if things haven't gone perfectly to plan for the last year or couple years, because manifestation is planning, manifestation is putting a plan into action. That's how to manifest. So if you've found that plans and manifestation haven't worked for a while, that's okay. It's probably because you've been handling a crisis or multiple crises or some kind of personal or worldly crisis thanks to Neptune's foggy exit from Pisces. It's been this whole trip of illusions. And it's not naive illusions. It's kind of like having to have been self blinkered, purposely putting on your own earmuffs and blocking things out consciously so that you could just keep swimming through the day to day requirements of life, to just keep on keeping on. And the catch here has been that manifestation is hard when you're blinkered because you're less connected to the potential of everything when you're shut off. It has been hard from a place of sluggish uncertainty. And now, from this week onwards, things are full of more potential. But manifesting is only accessible to you if you prioritize and do the healing work. And the healing is going to look different for every sign. And you can find out in tomorrow's individual sign episodes how that looks for you. And I just want to say a quick thank you for bearing with me with last week's individual sign horoscope absence. Some very deep and personal emergencies with the health of relatives created a big hurdle for me last week, but I'm back to regular scheduling this week, and so tomorrow's individual sign horoscopes are ready to roll. But first, finishing the general outlook for this week. The week does end with an aspect on Sunday, and that is Mercury in Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius. If you've been listening to the horoscope vault for long enough, then you may remember that an opposition highlights a conflict. And in this case, with Mercury and Pluto, it's an intellectual power struggle. Someone may be trying to change your mind, someone may be trying to persuade you of something, but you should be careful. Because it's an opposition, these two energies are working at odds. And issues tend to be triggered or reflected by others, which force this awareness of imbalance. So, over here on one side with Mercury, this could be somebody acting impulsively or arrogantly without considering long term consequences. And then on the other side, for Pluto, it may be being overly cautious or self protective and therefore limiting necessary progress. It's this feeling of wanting to speak up and correct something, but then being seen as a troublemaker if you do so. So instead, you pull back and you let it implode, which, by the way, is just as bad. Or maybe it's to do with pushing and pushing to start a project your way, and then others thinking that it's too risky and getting into your head, so you hold back, only for the opportunity to completely slip away. There could be something going on at the weekend where you want to challenge a decision that you think is wrong, but you fear rocking the boat. So you stay silent and then the problems grow. If you only act on the pressing Mercury side, you risk arrogance, burnout, and failure. If you only act from the Pluto in Aquarius side, you risk inaction missed timing, or becoming overly self protective and therefore disconnected, it's probably correct to speak up, but it's also correct to choose your moment and to choose your words carefully. And thinking about that, saying that out loud, it's maybe perhaps that the best approach is to not initiate, but to respond. So don't call someone out on themselves or don't go to higher ups about something that's happening. Instead, wait to be asked and then answer questions when someone says, "What do you think?" And this helps you avoid the consequences of going gung ho into something, and instead you get to watch things unfold, most likely the way that you knew they would, but without feeling the heaviness of responsibility to prevent something in advance, without feeling like you need to fix it before it happens or take on things that are maybe above your pay grade. This is keeping your side of the street clean, doing things right by yourself, even when you see the mayhem externally, and then waiting for the correct timing to respond and share your input. You're not being passive by doing this. You can definitely speak up for the wrongness of a situation or what you see as a problem. But waiting to be asked or being invited to share your opinion or perspective is key. So, this week's recap: Monday, Sun square Neptune, feeling unclear or emotionally drained. Don't push for answers. Take it slow. Let feelings settle. Tuesday's lucky Sun Jupiter conjunction is a bold opportunity to grow, but it comes with a challenge. Strengthen your emotional foundation first and then rise to meet the opportunity. Wednesday's Cancer new moon and Mercury sextile Uranus is a fresh start, especially around the home or to do with emotions, but it asks you to think before speaking, because a gentle truth is going to bring much more freedom than a sharp reaction. Thursday, Sun sextile Mars. This is making temporary sacrifices or compromises to meet personal needs. And now comes a quiet breakthrough or a shift that frees you from that. Friday, Saturday's Mercury trine Saturn, Mercury trine Neptune brings bold ideas that are backed by maturity and emotional healing that can finally gain traction. Manifestation becomes easier when you are rested and clear. And then Sunday, Mercury opposite Pluto. Avoid power struggles like the plague. Avoid the urge to correct others. Let it all burn down. Let situations unfold, and then wait for the right time to respond with grounded clarity. Because you're right no matter what, whether you say it in advance or you wait for it to happen. And that's this episode. I'll be back with the individual sign horoscope episode tomorrow. And don't forget to click the link in the show notes to download your July 2025 horoscope to sync to your phone. Thanks for joining me here, and I hope this info supports you well this week. Until tomorrow, bye.